Hello everyone, this is POW Ponder on Weather. In this update, we're going to be talking about an April cold blast with big changes on the way as we give you an overall snapshot over the next 10 days. Good morning everyone, this is your April the 14th update. And let's take a look at the overall water vapor imagery this morning. And you can really depict on what's happening for the midsection of the country with all that severe weather that took place over the last couple of days. It's rapid clearing back behind it with this massive Q swirl here that dumped all the heavier snows in Montana and Nebraska with those blizzard conditions up there with feet of snow. And that snowstorm is still going on this morning as it's trying to wind itself down. But now that instability is pushed off into the southeast. You can actually see a lot of the thunderstorm convectment is out here in the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico, where we got 1,200 lightning strikes currently right now. But those storms will continue to push off into the East Coast, where they do have a marginal risk for severe weather. And there's also an updated slight risk for severe weather in portions of the Northeast, where there's much needed rain showers along into Northern California and sporadic intermountain snows into the Intermountain West. So let's take a look at the overall hazard map this morning, and there's those blizzard conditions still unfolding in the Dakotas, with winter weather advisories pushing off into Minnesota, very high wind warnings into portions of South Dakota, with a lot of high wind advisories and portions of the upper Midwest, getting into the Ohio Valley here with all those red flag warnings where it's been dangerously dry in the midsection of the country. And those are actually freeze warnings this morning as that colder air continues to drain back behind that strong cold front. And those are frost into portions of Oklahoma this morning. So as we extend the view and take you look at the overall snapshot for today, there's that cold front. It continues to push off the East Coast, where we are going to be getting some sporadic showers and stronger thunderstorms along the East Coast today. And some of those could be on the severe side, but more probability up here and towards, as you get in towards the Northeast or in and around the New York area. There's the heavier snows continuing to wind down in the Dakotas, with that massive low pressure system in the 970s range. That brought all the colder air and well below average temperature anomalies for that region, with the snow continuing to crank into the upper Midwest here, and then especially along the Intermountain region as well, with much cooler conditions still filtering in with those rain showers up here into Northern California. So as we expand the view and take a look and kind of zoom into that area that has that slight risk for severe weather, and portions of Philly, getting into Trenton, all the way into Allentown today, all of New York City, back into Bridgeport, into Hartford, back into Springfield, you could be looking at some stronger storms, damage and winds aspect, and could be some pocket change hail within this activity as we get into the afternoon hours and head towards your dinner time. If we take a look at the overall setup, by the time we get into your 4, 5, 6 o'clock time frame, you got a lot of the convective activity still pushing off into the Gulf of Mexico, but we should have some marginal risk storms entering portions of the North Carolina, getting into the Virginia, and then we start to see some deepening reds and some pockets of severe storms in and around New Jersey, going into portions of Massachusetts and Connecticut, around New York City there, into portions of Vermont as we get into your dinner time frame. But those storms will quickly push off the East Coast as we get to the overnight hours. But as we transition into your Friday, Good Friday time frame, we still see that that cold front will continue to press off the East Coast, clearing all that air mass out for that region. But we do have another little cool boundary here, and out ahead of it, we could be looking at some scattered activity into the afternoon hours into portions of Oklahoma, getting into the Arklatex here, into the Tennessee Valley, with some scattered, some stronger storms for that region as the snow continues to fly into portions of the Intermountain West, into Idaho, as well as into Montana, filtering into Wyoming, as Northern California will continue to take that welcome rain that's going to be entering back into that region. So as we transition into your Saturday time frame, April the 16th, there's that cold front continued to sag a little bit further south, and as it does, there's going to kick off a boundary in and around the Dallas-Fort Worth area. You are under a marginal risk for severe weather, so as we get into the afternoon, the dry line gets active again, and you could be looking at some scattered, stronger storms. Some of those could be 1 or 2 cells on the severe side that has some stronger winds, some pocket change hail with that activity, and could be some quarter size hail as well. But that stronger activity just along that boundary there, can't roll out some scattered storms kind of ahead of that boundary in portions of the southeast as we get into your Saturday time frame, as kind of the mixed precipitation by then kind of filters out into portions of the Intermountain West, but still heavier snows. Still, the heavier snows continue to fly into Montana as well as into North Dakota, even into your Saturday time frame. And look at the temperatures by the time we wake up on Sunday morning, your April the 17th. All those areas in blue, that's below freezing temperatures. So in some of these areas are actually in the teens where they have that snowpack. You're waking up to 13 degrees up there in the Dakota. So that's plenty of cold air on the table for our northern branch here. But yeah, widespread 30s from much of Washington and Oregon, getting into Nevada here, into Idaho, Montana, back into Wyoming, into the upper Midwest. And those colder conditions creep into Iowa, getting into Wisconsin, as well as Illinois. I mean, Chicago wakes up to a freeze, back into Indiana, to the Ohio Valley, even into portions of the Northeast where they experienced that rapid warm up last week. Big changes on the way as the much colder conditions are going to be filtering in, especially as we get into the beginning of the work week. Because by then, look at the temperature anomalies as we get into April 18th. I mean, you got that snowpack still underneath that well below average temperatures, and that's why you're so cold up here into the Dakotas regions. But that colder air continues to filter down off the northwest flow, and you're seeing a good chunk of 10, 15, almost 20 degrees below average temperatures. And by the time we get into Monday, back portions of the Ohio Valley up here into the mid-Atlantic states, you're talking 20 to 25 degrees below average. So that's a rapid change of what you've seen as of late, with big changes on the table as a cold blast is going to be on the way for that region. But out west, you warm up. I mean, you continue to warm up into the desert Southwest and much of Texas here as we get into your Monday time frame. But underneath that, it's going to be cold enough to actually bring out some snow showers into portions of Minnesota, getting into Wisconsin. That actually filters into Michigan. I do feel that's going to be pretty much all rain getting into Monday. By the time we get into that Tuesday time frame, it could be transitioning to a little bit of wet snowflakes, because that cold air will continue to drain in by the 19th of April back into port, get filtering all the way down into the southeast here with those 10 to 15 degrees below average temperatures. So it's going to be an April chill for sure for that region. And underneath the mid-Atlantic states, we could be cold enough by the time we get into that Tuesday morning of ringing out some scattered snow showers, believe it or not, for April. You can't roll it out into portions of Ohio, getting into West Virginia, even into places into Pennsylvania. I mean, Pittsburgh hit a high of in the 80s the other day. It's going to be a drastic difference as you get into early next week with those well below average temperature anomalies, and you're actually talking about some scattered snow showers and into portions of the Northeast as we get into your Tuesday. But the atmospheric river just continues to be inundated for much of the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. So Northern California is actually going to be picking up some pretty good rain amounts over the next 5 to 6 days. So let's kind of give you an overall snapshot of what the next 5 days actually looks like, from essentially from Friday to about your Wednesday time frame, April the 20th. And you can see it's definitely much colder for April standards, with those well below average temperature anomalies. Based on average April temperatures, you'll be looking at 10 to 15 degrees below average for much of the Pacific Northwest. Underneath that snowpack, a good 20 to 30 degrees below average, but that colder air will filtering in into the Ohio Valley and much of the mid-Atlantic going over the next 5 days, while much of the west and the desert southwest and much of Texas is above average temperatures. So as we transition to some of the precipitation anomalies over the next 5 days, you can actually see the atmospheric river continues to pummel the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. So that'll take all that rain there in Northern California. That is above average precipitation for them. And then where we have those boundaries, where those little cold fronts continue to sag as they deepen down into the southeast, that's where you're going to be picking up your above average precipitation anomalies, essentially basically as far as East Texas going into eastern Oklahoma, but especially as you get into the southeast with those above average precipitation anomalies, for the next 5 days. So let's take a look at the overall 10 days. So it doesn't stop there. We still have that colder air continuing to drain down off that northwest flow, while the same areas experience much above average temperatures. A good chunk of the northern tier are gonna be below average overall for the next really 10 days of that, as that April chill continues to drain down from Canada off the northwest flow. So definitely it's not going to be feeling like your normal April there. It's going to be much cooler than what you normally experience for this time of year. And there's the precipitation to continue to pummel. I mean, that's some pretty good rain amounts for Northern California and well above average what you typically see for the next 10 days. So yeah, definitely some much needed rain into Northern California, getting into Oregon, getting into Washington, up here into the Pacific Northwest. There's the setup again, setting up basically essentially, East Texas, getting into eastern Oklahoma, going into the southeast, well above average precipitation anomalies over the next 10 days, filtering up into portions along the East Coast here, and all these brown shaded areas. Those are your below average precipitation essentially over the next 10 days. But as you go beyond that, I mean, here's the next setup, I think, for the more maybe potential widespread severe weather setup as we get into the end of the month. So this is kind of an overall snapshot over the next 10 days. But I do feel the synoptic pattern will be getting more active again as we get deeper into, say, that last week of April, with all that ridging coming back. So the cold air moves out by then. So you'll be pretty chilly for the next 10 days. But after that, as we get into the end of April timeframe, those rapid warm up will start to take place again for much of Texas and the central U.S. and much of the southeast, getting into the Ohio Valley and portions of the northeast here. While we've seen this before, we have much deeper troughing setting up off the west coast, and that is going to cause that clash that could spark some more widespread severe weather as we transition into that last week of April. And you can definitely see on maybe the supercell composite parameter for that last week of April going into those first couple of days of May, it looks very active again for a good chunk of Texas and Oklahoma, getting into portions of the Central Plains here, and I think that shifts off into the southeast as we get into deeper into the last week of April, going to those first couple of days of May. So hey, I appreciate you guys watching. That was kind of a overall snapshot over the next 10 days and kind of what to expect. So I know it's been very active over the last couple of days. It's going to calm down, at least on the severe weather front, but we do have much of those cooler conditions filtering in, especially for our northern branch. So I appreciate you guys watching. I'm going to go ahead and take tomorrow off for Good Friday as things are starting to settle down, but I'll be back on Saturday with another full update. So I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me in the next update where I protect you before and after the storm.